Edison Now is back. Hello, everybody. This is Chris here from Edison Now, and as always, thanks so much for joining us and supporting us. And we got Metuchen. We have residents in Woodbridge that follow us as well. Hello to everybody, and hope everybody is doing well. We have, as always, we like to invite some special guests here onto the show and special interest, to bring some know-how. To you, the viewers, to give you more information. It's always better to know more today than you did yesterday. And this evening, I have Walter Stochel. Walter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on, Chris, on Edison Now.
Oh, no, it's absolutely my pleasure. My pleasure. And we haven't had too many people yet, come through the studio. So you're, I'd say within the first dozen or so to come, we'll walk through our doors.
Well, I'm so honored to be here as one of your first dozen people to be interviewed.
Perfect. So if you don't mind, please, let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Walter Stochel, and I'm the chair of the Edison Township Open Space Advisory Committee. And I've been a resident since 1971 when my family moved in, but my grandparents moved to Edison in 1932, and my mother grew up in Edison also. So my family's been here since 1932.
Okay.
And I got to know a lot about the township through my grandparents and my mother, and growing up here. So I knew a lot about the town and the environment of the town.
Excellent. So, 1932. That goes back quite a way. For residing in one town.
Yeah, they moved to what's Henry Street in the what was known as the Midwood section, which is off of Oak Tree Road. They lived in a little bungalow house, and then they bought a house on Oak Tree Road. They moved uptown, let's say.
Right.
And that's the house that we're still in today.
Excellent. Really?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
excellent. So you're on the Open Space Commission?
Yes, it's a committee that committee that the town council set up in 1999 to advise the council on open space issues.
Excellent. And yes, we're going to be talking about some open space issues tonight. With probably one of the best that we could actually have here to talk about this issue. So before we talk about some of the pressing topics in open space, we do have a vote pertaining to open space coming up on the ballot this election season, correct?
Correct. We have Edison has one ballot question on the ballot this year, and it's to create an open space trust fund, and that will provide funding for open space preservation, park and recreation area development, and historic preservation of historic structures that the town has. And it's a 1 cent per $100 assessed value tax that would be added to your tax bill. For the average homeowner, the average house in Edison is assessed at $187,000, so that would be $18.70 for the average house.
Right.
The biggest taxpayer in Edison, which is Heller Park, they would pay, I think it's $15,000 a year in taxes on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the top 20 taxpayers in Edison, mostly industrial and commercial sites, they would pay, I think it's $115,000.
$115,000 on an annual basis. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Great. Now, also too, we had a little conversation about this earlier. This tax would be dedicated, correct, to open space usage.
Right. Open space parks, recreation areas. It can't be used for anything else. They couldn't use it to buy, let's say, a police car or pay for a library book. They can't use it. It has to be for those purposes. And it's dedicated for those purposes.
Okay. Excellent. And actually, before I forget, I got Walt provided me with a copy of the questions that are going to be on the ballot. And this open space question for the Edison residents is the third question. So I just want to be sure to point that out to some folks. This is the third question. There's going to be two questions before it, followed by this one. So
That's right, Chris. You have to look for it on the ballot. And if you want to vote for it, you have to find it. And
You have to find it.
we do need the yes votes on it.
right.
The previous referendum lost by about 300 votes. And most people that year didn't vote at all on the question.
Right. And
So we're hoping to get people out to vote.
right. And that last so we had the open space tax, which expired, what was it, from 1998 to 2015?
Correct.
And then it expired in 2015?
Correct.
And it went up again on the ballot the following election, and that's when it didn't pass, correct?
It didn't pass in 2018.
2018 is when
Yeah.
it didn't pass.
Yeah, we had taken 2 years to update the open space plan.
Okay.
And the town didn't put it on the ballot until the plan was finished in 2018.
Gotcha. So as far as open space issues within our town, things that people are talking about, things that things that might be issues around town. Is there any how could I say, any priority when it comes to open space in Edison right now?
Well, currently the township has a Green Acres application to buy a property on Glendale at Silver Lake Avenue, where a developer
Right.
wants to build a massive warehouse,
Massive warehouse,
or
right.
truck terminal. Really, that's what it is. And the township has applied to the Green Acres program for a grant, and to the county open space trust fund for a grant. Those are in the works. If the referendum passes, we get more money from Green Acres.
Okay.
Right now, if we get that grant, if the Green Acres approves the grant for Glendale, they will give us 25% of the cost of the property. If we have a trust fund, we will get 50%.
Okay, so this yes vote actually allows us to access to more money.
Correct.
For from Green Acres.
Correct. When we had the previous trust fund, which passed in 1998, we used a lot of the trust fund money as like a match for state and county money.
Okay.
It's a great tool to have to match those monies at that greater amount. They give us greater funding, and we can match it with the trust fund.
Okay, great. Yeah, we know that that Glendale area, that is a very hot topic around town.
You go down there, Silver Lake Avenue is one of the oldest roads in the town. That was the road from Martin's Dock up to Piscataway Town, where the colonial settlers walked.
Right.
So this property has been, part of the property probably hasn't been developed since the settlers arrived in the 1660s. The upper part is flat. You could probably put some a field up there to play on, and it slopes down to the Raritan River, and it has a beach on the Raritan River. So it could provide a multitude of uses, recreation,
Right.
conservation uses along that part of Edison, which doesn't have a lot of parkland.
Right. Now, as far as the land that Edison has along the river, there's not much that would be able to be utilized in such a fashion, is there? I don't think there is.
No, this would be a great addition to the land on the riverfront. We have the boat basin,
Right,
and the
right.
Raritan River walkway, but that's about 1.5 miles away, and the
Yeah.
walkway goes away from Glendale. Just west of Glendale on the river, we have what's known as White Rock,
Okay.
and it's a shale outcropping along the river that is by a ravine. So that's about a 9-acre parcel. So this is close. There's a piece in between. Maybe in the future we could get that piece and connect that. But the vision is a greenway along the entire Raritan in Edison, which is over 9 miles.
Okay.
And if you go from Highland Park to Woodbridge one day along this greenway, it may not be right on the shore. It may be up from the shore a bit as we go.
Right.
But we can envision that, and that's what's in the plan. And the Glendale piece is a piece of that puzzle.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Besides Glendale, is there any other projects that are being eyed up or for for preservation?
Well, there are a couple pieces up in North Edison next to the Stevens Preserve, what was the Short Hills Battlefield area.
Okay.
So there's some pieces there. The county just bought 20 acres up there for the town, off of Woodland Avenue, and they got $1.2 million in federal money to buy that because it was part of the battlefield. There's some watershed land up there. There's some parcels around the Dismal Swamp, and then pieces here and there. So we can create a few more parks around town.
Right. So I'm gonna see if I could pan over to this map.
Okay.
Look
Hey, there you got it.
Look at that. You got to love the small victories. Now,
if you want to see the map, if the viewer wants to see it, it's on the township's website.
That's correct. It's on the township's website in the open space section. So the with this map, like we were speaking about before, you had the let me get the cursor over here. Right around here, like this buff color right here, and that is vacant lands, correct?
It's the buff, the light buff color is vacant lands in town.
Okay, and we don't see a whole heck of a lot of.
It's not a lot anymore.
Yeah. Right.
The map does show the vacant lands, but if there's a structure on it on a parcel, and the rest of it's vacant, it doesn't show up as vacant.
Gotcha.
So if you had an acre lot with a house or a building on it, it doesn't show up as vacant.
Understood. So would that be a different color code?
It'd be a different color. There's a brownish, orangish color on the map.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
I got
shows
a highlight right here.
Yeah,
the
that
brownish.
shows the larger single-family lots that are out there.
Gotcha.
The two lots on Woodland Avenue that the county recently purchased are one of the larger single-family lots.
Right, and there used to be a large farm at one time. Is that correct on Woodland?
Woodland, there were a couple farms on Woodland. One was the Plainfield Milk and Dairy Company farm.
Okay,
and that was there till probably the 1970s.
Okay,
and then that was divided up, and there's a few large houses there. But the back part of that property became the what's known as the Smith property and the Stevens Preserve.
Okay, understood. Yeah, but looking at this map, there's not a whole heck of a lot of vacant space left in town. So I would actually say, we might want to think about keeping some of that.
That's why this time we included park development, recreation facilities, and other things in the trust fund, so that we could fix parks or build parks in some of the vacant park parcels that we have.
Right.
Our population in Edison has gone up 6,000 this past 10 years with the census.
Okay.
We haven't built any new facilities for recreation. Right. And one of the things the COVID pandemic has showed us, that you get locked in your house and you want to go out for a walk, there's not a lot of places you can walk. So we need those places to walk. And I looked, you look at North Edison, there are a lot of parcels there in North Edison.
Right.
And I people say, well, that your neighborhood's next to a park, but I actually think your neighborhood is the park. You live in a park. You have so much around you.
Right.
So let's now connect all those park pieces with trails and paths, so that you could walk. You could actually walk through most of North Edison and do like a 2-3 mile walk.
Right.
It would be similar to the Greenway, but not flat. And on the other end of town, you have the Papiani Park, Central Avenue, North 8th Avenue. That's like a linear area that you could create a walking path system to. So we do have the opportunities to develop. We also, 20 years ago when we did the first plan, things like cricket weren't as popular in
Right.
town now.
Right.
Go anywhere on a Sunday morning in Edison, you will find people playing cricket.
Absolutely. Yes.
Dudash Park, Kilmer Park, Woodrow Wilson School, James Madison School, John Adams School. Cricket is very popular. So we need to maybe come up with a defined cricket pitch
Right.
just for that.
Just for that.
Right.
Yeah.
We also need lacrosse. Lacrosse is a growing sport amongst high schools.
Very true.
I think the Edison High has a lacrosse team, but we don't have any other lacrosse fields in town. So the idea maybe we need 2 multi-use artificial turf fields in town, one in the north side and one on the south side, so that you could play soccer, football, lacrosse, maybe cricket if you can have the room to make that shape too.
Right.
And that way the youth learn these sports and it feeds into the high schools and then beyond. And a turf field could be used, they dry out faster than a grass field.
Yeah.
You would still have grass fields, but you would have these fields. Go to any tennis court on a Saturday and Sunday in Edison, and they're full. So maybe we need some more tennis courts. And a new sport that wasn't even here 10 years ago, pickleball. It's like table tennis, and badminton. It's very, very unique, and it's great for older players.
Okay.
You're not running around like tennis, but you're getting the workout.
You're gonna work out.
And I've seen in other parks in other towns, older people going wild playing pickleball. So we may need that.
Sure.
One of the things if the referendum does pass, the town would need to do a needs assessment and facilities plan and come up with what facilities we need and where we're gonna put them.
Right.
We do have some parks that can be expanded for those facilities, and we can pay for it with the trust fund.
Right. Right. And if you don't mind, what would some of those places currently be?
Well, we have some land at Camp Kilmer. Around the Edison Angels, there's a piece to the west of that. Kilmer Park on Plainfield Ave, right by New Brunswick Ave. They do play cricket there.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of a slope, but that could be maybe a site for a multi-sport field.
Right.
It's wide open, so that I would look at that. And then the needs assessment, you would see what is needed in various neighborhoods.
Right.
Maybe you need basketball. We also see, if you go around, volleyball, a lot of volleyball being played in parks and in driveways and front yards, and badminton. I see badminton. People playing badminton out there.
Sure.
There's been talk of doing spray parks. Not pools, but spray parks where in the summertime the kids can run under like a sprinkler.
Yeah.
And they're pretty fun, and it's great for kids and moms and dads to bring the kids out, and they just run under these sprinklers. Maybe we need to upgrade the dog park in some way that we have, or create another dog park in Edison.
Right.
That would be good, and trails like through the swamp, through the short hills off of North Edison, and even something like a kayak trail. If you look at that map, the southern part of Edison, below Meadow Road and Mill Road, there are a series of canals and ditches that were dug 100 years ago that you could do a kayak trail through there. And
that's interesting.
You need to build a kayak launch somewhere down there, but you could develop, and that you could match the trust fund with like a National Recreational Trails grant, because they fund kayak trails.
There you go. Right.
So
right.
We have all these opportunities to upgrade what we have, create new facilities, and create some different facilities that we don't have, and preserve the remaining open space.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, so all this could, with passing of this referendum, we could actually do, quite a bit here, and bring more money, more money, matching funds rather, matching funds,
and 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 as residents, you want to stay here to do these activities.
You don't want to go anywhere else.
You don't want to go get in your car and have to go 20 miles to ride your bike on some trail that you could do here, but we don't have it yet.
Right.
Or put your kayak on the roof of your car when we have 9 miles of shoreline, and you could do it here.
Right.
But we just don't have the facilities.
Right. Right. Oh, maybe that'll change.
Another thing, if you look at Inman Avenue, right?
Okay.
Just drive up and down Inman. You don't think of it, but it's really a sports avenue. We have the Oak Crest Swim Club on one end, then the golf range with the tennis clubs. You go another half mile, we have just off Inman Minnieville Center, Community Center, and Elder Park with sport fields and basketball courts. Then you go another half mile, and it's the Shamrock Field.
Right. The Shamrock
Field.
Yeah.
So we need some way to connect all these facilities, and you could probably do it with a trail along Inman Avenue, or a path. Let's call it a path.
Yeah.
And then connect. You could call it Sports Avenue.
There you go. Right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So open space. Question number 3 on the ballot. If you want to see all these things come to fruition in Edison, it's a good question. You might want to think about responding in favor of that referendum. Everybody, so keep that in mind once November rolls around.
And Chris, if you look at it, you really have like 3 choices left in Edison. Either we preserve what's left,
right,
and purchase it and doesn't get developed, or they'll have multifamily housing on that, and that'll bust the schools even more. Or
Correct.
They'll say, let's put industrial there, and it'll be warehouses, and we'll get more trucks. So the sensible thing is to purchase what's left and preserve that, so we don't get the degradation in the quality of life that the other choices provide us.
Oh, I agree 100%. And plus, once it's gone, it's going to be very difficult to recreate later on.
It's hard to go back and knock things down and create things. In urban areas, they do that, but it's going to be hard to do that here.
Yeah. So I would actually argue preserve it while you can.
Right.
So
when the trust fund it kind of expired, it kind of ran out of money, and there were sites that we could have gotten, but we didn't go after them because we didn't have the money.
Right.
And there's hundreds of units of housing on those. So, if we had extended the trust fund in the 2000s, we may have been able to pick up some more. Yeah. And we just haven't.
Get some more space. Right. Absolutely. So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to open space uses, priorities, what the people want, and so on and so forth.
Again, go back to the pandemic. You couldn't buy a bicycle.
You couldn't.
Every bicycle in the country sold out. And I could, and this is a real story. So my daughter turned 16 during 2020, and she wanted a new bike. I drove an hour and a half into Pennsylvania because they just happened to have that bike in that type of style that she wanted. You couldn't find bikes anywhere. So you couldn't find them anywhere. So if you figure we have 112,000 people in Edison, how many bikes? Probably out of 100,000 bikes in Edison. Probably have more bikes than cars.
Probably.
We need safe places for these kids to ride.
Agreed.
And when you look at creating bike routes and bike paths, I say if you can't send your 7-year-old kid out on his own on a bike, on a path or a bike route, it's not safe enough.
Right.
So we need to create these safe facilities. Another thing that we've noticed about our parks, a lot of them aren't ADA compliant.
Okay.
There's no ADA or what you call handicap parking.
Disabilities, right?
Yeah. The parking lots are stone with.
Right.
So if you're less abled and you want to go see your son play, you can't. It's hard for you to get to the field,
Right.
or to the bleachers,
True.
or to get your child to the play area, because there may not be even a path from the parking lot to the play structure.
Yeah.
It's even harder to push a baby carriage
Yeah.
through
Good point. Yeah.
that. So one of the things that the trust fund could fund is ADA improvements. And some of the parks, they're gravel lots. You could do porous pavement where the water soaks in and is stored in a gravel base and then seeps into the ground.
Right.
So
Right.
it's more environmentally sustainable. So
Yeah.
those are things that a trust fund could do.
Excellent. So it seems to be quite versatile in
Right.
what we could do.
Right.
Well, versatile enough. I mean, we're not at liberty to do whatever we want with that money, but there seems to be a lot of options provided to us.
Right, and they'll probably if it passes and we do the needs assessment facilities study, there'll be public input.
Right.
I anticipate a lot of public input on what we need, and then just keep pushing to get these things done.
Right.
And we can create these facilities. Other towns nearby have done it. We can do it, and by having the trust fund, by the voters voting for the trust fund, it tells the council and the mayor, we want this.
Right.
Don't cut something out of the municipal budget
Yeah.
because there's not enough money that year. No, you'll have the money to do this in this trust fund.
It's there.
Right, it's there.
It's there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'd like to switch briefly. You gave me this interesting flyer right here, and I got to say this is great. This is great. We have Piscataway Town Burial Ground program and tour. You have GPR in here. That's the ground penetrating radar.
Yes.
Yeah. So Piscataway Town Burial Ground penetrating radar program and tour. And yeah, I'm gonna post these details, everybody, because this looks. This looks really, really, really cool. Do you want to,
I'll
briefly give us a rundown as to what this is?
One of the other things I do, I'm vice president of the Edison Greenways Group, and we worked on getting the Middlesex Greenway done. But one of the things we also did since 1995, we do a cleanup of the Piscataway Town Burial Ground, which was set aside as a cemetery in 1695. It's the oldest cemetery in Middlesex County.
That's right. Okay.
So because last year we couldn't do any of our hikes and tours and things like that, we decided to go for a grant, a historic grant, to do ground penetrating radar on the burial ground to answer some of the mysteries of the burial ground. Things like, was there a colonial townhouse there? And in the southwest corner, the colored burial ground where African Americans are buried, but there's only 4 headstones. So we wanted to find out how many burials are there.
Right.
And then look at the site of the former Piscataway Town School, which was behind the burial ground. Now, I can't tell you right now what we found, but we found things that we thought we were going to find, and we found things that we didn't think we were going to find. They were surprises. And as much as it answered the questions we had, we now have new questions need to answer in the future. So we're going to do this on the 2nd of October at between 1:30 and 3:30 over at the Edison First Aid Squad #1 on 33 Lakeview Boulevard. Come on over and hear the program about what we found, and then we're going to do a walking tour of the cemetery of what we found and some interesting things in the cemetery.
That's great. I can tell you right now. Yeah, thanks for sharing this with me. I'm going to be there. This totally has my interest. It'll be Saturday, October 2nd, from 1:30 to 3:30. Everybody, and I'm going to post this, below the video when we finally get it online. Edison First Aid Squad on Lakeview Boulevard in Edison, Saturday, October 2nd. Reserve that. This is going to be pretty cool. But Walter Stochel, thanks so much for joining us. And you know what? I think there's a lot we could talk about. I hope you'll come back one day. Because there's a lot of history, a lot of whether it's open space or just historical preservation or anything, in the history of our town. There's a lot A lot to talk about.
Maybe we could do a special called Edison Now and Then.
Now and then. Hey, you know what? I actually like that. I like that. But Walter, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking with Edison Now, for letting us bring you, everything that's fit to print and going on around the Edison area. And as always, we'll see you on the flip side. And until then, be well, everybody. Have a great evening.